Jeremiah Beasley, one of the latest in the door, 28 offers as a linebacker out of Michigan, top 300 player roughly in the nation. Your thoughts about Jeremiah Beasley?
Well, number one, I think it's huge for Michigan in the sense of you're taking away a guy that seemed for the longest time like he was going to end up at Michigan State. And if you want to be what you want to be, you need to be able to take down Michigan State with recruiting battles, right? So Michigan's long generally been good at that, but when we've seen Michigan kind of struggle, it's been when it hasn't really competed as much with Ohio State. It's really competed with Michigan State. So to be able to get a guy who's 10 miles down the road at Belleville High School, I lived in Belleville to tell you exactly how close they are. When I went back to the University of Michigan, I dropped out of school. And then when I went back in 2004, I lived in Belleville and commuted because it was like, okay, it's just across that Wayne County border. It's a little bit nicer than a lot of Ypsilanti for the same price. And it was just a 10-mile drive right off the expressway. So he's not that far down the road. So that's the type of guy you want to get. Getting a 4-star linebacker, Michigan's strong, is not strong, but has long kind of struggled to get high-end linebackers into their classes. It's not saying that they haven't gotten the linebackers right now. Junior Colson is obviously leading the charge. He has the potential to be one of the best in a while, maybe outside of Devin Bush, but even Devin Bush, according to some services, was a 3-star. So they haven't really gotten a lot of 4-star linebacker talent. They were thought to be in the Aaron Childs race. They were thought to be the leader for him for the longest time, didn't get him. So to be able to close with a guy like Beasley is huge. The second part of it all is the fact that Beasley is high school teammates with Bryce Underwood, who is the big fish in the 2025 pond, right? It's the quarterback. He's number 1 overall, and he's on the same team. So now he's got someone that's going to Michigan that can be in his ear for an entire year, especially with Underwood planning on committing on January 6th. He's not going to drag it out into next summer or whenever Beasley is fully departed. Now Michigan has an advocate that's on his own team, and that is very helpful for him. And it's also a sign of things having mended at Belleville, because Belleville's been probably the premier program in the state over the last several years. But there was animosity between Jim Harbaugh and former head coach over there, Jermaine Crowell. It just seemed like no matter what Michigan would do or what Belleville would do, that the two couldn't get on the same side of anything. And as a result, you saw most Belleville prospects depart elsewhere. Michigan hasn't been completely without them. They've gotten a couple here and there. Andre Selden, who ended up transferring to New Mexico, he came from Belleville. But that's almost pretty much the list, right? They've had 5 stars. Maybe not all of them have churned out, right? Like Devontae Dobbs was a 5-star. Damon Payne, 5-star. They went to MSU and Alabama, respectively. Dobbs transferred to Memphis. Julian Barnett, 4-star wide receiver. All these guys came out of the Belleville program, and they didn't choose Michigan. And so this is also a sign of things kind of mending on that front, which they obviously desperately need, because this Bryce Underwood situation is one in 2025 that Michigan really needs to win, because you can't really imagine a 5-star quarterback 10 miles away from Columbus or Tuscaloosa or Athens opting to go elsewhere. Michigan needs to be able to figure that out, and having Beasley there in the same locker room, that should pay a huge dividend. So it's big on multiple fronts that they were able to get Beasley.
Isaiah Hull is here breaking down the Wolverines for us right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate all of you stopping by. Please hit the like button while you are here. Check out Isaiah's work at Wolverines Wire. Dominic Nichols, out-of-stater at Maryland. The edge position at Michigan has been fortified considerably in recent years. It was Aiden Hutchinson kind of leading that latest wave, but you look at the current Michigan roster and the edge position's about as strong as it's been in recent memory for sure. But looking at Dominic Nichols for the 24 class, your thoughts about bringing in a top 12 player in the state of Maryland?
I don't want to say it's big and kind of overstate it, but I mean, that's another inroad that they need to make more of is the DMV. And certainly I mentioned Aaron Childs earlier. He had a teammate who was an edge rusher that Michigan was thought to lead for the longest time, in Darian Mayo, who ended up going to Clemson. Now Dominic Nichols is far from a consolation prize, but being able to go back into Maryland, Johnsville, Oakdale, and be able to pull a guy that's a 3-star by some metrics, 4-star in the 24/7 Sports Composite, albeit rated about 414 overall. He's still, when you look at the offer list, it's got some that you would say, okay, that looks like a lower rated guy, and then he's got Georgia, right? Like, so the fact that he has a Georgia offer usually is probably, in today's day and age, a pretty good indication that this guy can play football. When you combine that with the development aspect, I would liken him, and I haven't seen much of his film. I've seen just a little bit, so I can't really speak greatly about his capabilities. But I would liken the progress that you would look at for how he would move forward in the system as being kind of similar to a guy that they're looking maybe to contribute this year, like Keyshawn Bennett. That type of guy that's a 4-star, has some big offers, but takes maybe a little while to develop and matriculate through the system. So it is a solid piece to add to the class. I don't think it's going to be like a commitment that anyone's going to really go nuts over. Probably unlike except for the kind of pallor that's currently over Michigan fans due to the recruiting over the weekend. I would say like a guy like Elias Rudolph, who's expected to pick Michigan tonight. That would be a guy that I think people would be really excited about. Dominic Nichols is certainly a guy that can probably work his way in and really develop. Now, some guys develop sooner than later, especially through the Michigan system. I mean, Kwity Paye was a 3-star from Rhode Island. No one really cared about him. He ended up being a lot better player than people thought. So I would say if I'm Dominic Nichols, I take a look at some guys like that and say, hey, I can come in, I can make that type of impact. People clearly think highly of me. I'm a 4-star in some services, and try to really push that forward for his own motivation.